This is TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And the State of the Saints podcast is brought to you by Manscaped.com. For those that enjoyed the Lawnmower 3.0, well, I got news for you. The Manscaped engineering team has successfully created the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the Lawnmower 4.0. The leader in male grooming is taking it to the next level. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped for all their below-the-waist needs. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code STATEOFSAINTS and you will save 20% off on the Lawnmower 4.0 as well as other Manscaped items. That's manscaped.com.
Now he's lying. I don't think nobody on these panels said that we was winning the division. Have y'all said anything about winning the division?
I'll touch on the division. I don't give a damn. I think we gonna lose one game in the division, and it ain't gonna come to the Saints.
Division talk didn't even come up. What are you talking about?
I'll touch on the division. I don't give a damn. I think we gonna lose one game in the division, and it ain't gonna come to the Saints.
Nobody said anything about a division.
You know that I can see you.
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope everyone is having a good afternoon because we are recording this on a Wednesday afternoon, and I hope you're having a good one so far. Good weather outside, man. I have a straight view of the a window, and the sun is shining, man. It's been raining quite a bit out here for the last couple of days, so it's good to see some sunshine. Weather been good, right? Weather been good. Hope you are enjoying your Wednesday. Hope it's clear skies and beautiful weather where you are, because, we're coming off a Saints victory, right? Saying it's always a beautiful week when the Saints win. You feel good. You feel relaxed, right? You don't feel so uptight. When the Saints lose, you find yourself looking forward to Sunday, and it just seems like things just aren't right. I guess that comes with being a fan of the team. But we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about Jameis Winston. We're going to be talking about Jameis Winston because, I had opportunity to go back and watch the game. I actually went to the game. For some of you, you may know that already. And I didn't get opportunity to actually look at the telecast. So I got opportunity to kind of check it out. And, I couldn't help but to think about being at the game and watching the Saints those last three quarters. And I can remember, as a fan, being frustrated and just like everybody else and wondering, what is taking so long and why is this offense not clicking? Why is it not gelling? What is going on? And, I had to think about what I was thinking at that time and process it. And I realized something. And I think that we should have an appreciation for it. And the reason why I decided to entitle this podcast, Has Jameis Winston Turned the Corner? Because I think we need to have this conversation. Maybe our frustration early in that game came because Jameis did turn the corner. Because I think about when the Saints were struggling and the offensive line was getting whooped at the line of scrimmage and Jameis Winston was getting pressure from left to right. He was going down. There would have been a time that Jameis Winston probably would have been playing some hero ball. He probably would have went out there and tried to make some things happen, tried to make the game come to him, in a way, forcing the game to come to him versus letting the game come to him. There would have been a time where he probably wouldn't have took the sack. There would have been times where he was trying to force the ball down the field, probably would have ended up being an interception. So I come away from that game having an appreciation for Jameis Winston's effort to try to rewrite the narrative of how he is playing the quarterback position. I understand at the time it didn't feel like it. And in some cases, I'm pretty sure people thought in the back of their mind, like, did he come back too soon? At times. Like we're just human, right? We want the team to win and we want them to be in the best position to win. But if you look at it, the entire totality of the game, you'll see, like, when Jameis Winston was in Tampa and Tampa was down, we seen him trying to force the ball into like small little windows and trying to make some things happen. But you see him taking a sack. You see him living to fight another day. You're looking at him relying on the defense to be able to do their part. So for that, I have to say that I have an appreciation for Jameis Winston and his ability to try to do things differently. And I think that's going to be beneficial to the New Orleans Saints down the road. It's going to be beneficial to actually see Jameis Winston doing these things, because if the offense really starts to cook, it's really going to start cooking. All right. And if you have to take a sack or have to throw the ball away and have to punt back to the team, you have the confidence in your defense to get you the ball back. So I think at the time, once again, the human element, the fan element of me was loaded with frustration. But looking back and understanding the type of quarterback and some of the decisions that Jameis made early in his career, you have to have an appreciation for what he is trying to do now. And I think that the reason why we were so frustrated is because Jameis is evolving to something possibly that we haven't seen him do, right? Usually, like, we see him taking these risks, right? Throwing the ball down the field, but, saying let the best man win, so to speak. But our frustration may be coming because he's actually doing the right thing and making the right decision and living to fight another day. So in that regard, I think that he is turning the corner. Now, the season is early. It's only been one game. So Jameis has 17 more games to play. They got a big game coming up versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know I played that clip about the Atlanta Falcons, but I think it's time to turn the corner and move on to week 2. I think they didn't have enough. So we're going to be focused on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and answering the question. Feel free to comment. I know some people, they may not comment or anything like that, during the show. But if you're watching this show after I record this and you want to answer the question, feel free to put it in the comments, right? But we're answering the question: do you feel like Jameis has turned the corner? And also, a couple of things that I noticed as well is about the similarities of the wide receivers that we have. I was looking at Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave, and I couldn't help but to think about some of the wide receivers that I respected in the past. Anybody that knows me, they know that I have an appreciation for fundamentally sound wide receivers. I'm not really big on guys that are just straight up burners, even though those guys are talented in their own right. The Tyreek Hills, the Deshaun Jacksons, the Antonio Browns, even though Antonio Brown is a little bit more fundamentally sound than the two guys that I mentioned. But I'm more interested in the guys that can run the entire route tree, that can create their own separation. And it's not because they're the fastest guy on the field. And it's not because, they're blowing past anybody. It's about them being fundamentally sound. And basically they can catch a ball in the phone booth. I put a video up of Jameis Winston, according to Next Gen Stats, right? It was a probability meter, the percentage probability of him completing a pass and the level of difficulty. And a couple of passes that he threw to Michael Thomas, I mean, it was below 10%. You know what I'm saying? Like the separation that Michael Thomas had, and he still was able to catch the football. One, I think, was like 0.4. I think the first touchdown, 0.9 was the first touchdown, and 0.4 was the second touchdown. So the level of difficulty. So I know that's a little bit long-winded, but please bear with me. When I look at Michael Thomas and I look at Jarvis Landry. Michael Thomas reminds me a lot of Chris Carter. You know, Chris Carter wasn't the fastest guy in the world. He wasn't the guy that was going to take the top off the defense. What I loved about Chris Carter was he was so smart at the wide receiver position. I remember, like, as a kid, I used to have my brother, shouts out to my big brother EJ. I used to have him throwing me sideline passes, right? And, you know, of me, and I would catch the ball and fall out of bounds with both of my feet in bounds. Like, I did that because Chris Carter used to do that. I remember doing that all the time. Chris Carter had some of the most sure hands that you can find. I don't think people, when they talk about some of the best wide receivers that ever played, I don't think Chris Carter's name comes up enough. And it's probably because he wasn't one of those guys that was just very polarizing. Like, even though, you know, he played for Philadelphia, but, you know, he was going through a transition in his life and he had some issues that was going on. But when he went to the Minnesota Vikings, he was able to kind of resurrect his career and kind of put his name and stamp on being an NFL great. Michael Thomas reminds me a lot of Chris Carter. Like, if you go back and you watch Chris Carter, for some of my younger listeners and viewers out there, you'll see that, you know, they have a lot of similarities. They're not the fastest guy, but if you throw the ball anywhere near them, they're going to catch it. And his route running ability, his ability to find soft spots in the defense, his ability to be able to go out there and catch those 50-50 balls, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to watch. So that's one comparison. Another comparison when it comes to Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry reminds me a lot of Michael Irvin. He reminds me a lot of him. Michael Irvin, once again, not the fastest guy in the world, but was a crisp route runner, and you know, he was a guy that you can like literally count on in clutch situations. Like, you know, when you think about the Dallas Cowboys during those times of the 90s, a lot of people, you know, you look at Troy Aikman, he was a great quarterback for what he was asked to do. But everybody know that was Emmitt Smith's team, that offensive line, the Great Wall of Dallas, right? They used to run the ball a lot. And, you know, Troy Aikman would throw the ball a few times, you know, maybe get over 200 yards. But when it came down to clutch plays and catching those balls that was difficult to catch, you can always count on Michael Irvin. That's who he reminds me of. You know, I know some people, I see some people in the chat, they're talking about, you know, Joe Horn, but, you know, if we're talking about levels of production, yeah, we're talking about Joe Horn. But when I think about Michael Thomas, I don't think about Joe Horn, and neither do I think of Jarvis Landry in that regards. Jarvis Landry, to me, like, go and watch Michael Irvin play. Like, just go back and watch Michael Irvin play the wide receiver position and tell me you don't see a comparison between he and Jarvis Landry. Now, Chris Olave is a little, you know, it remains to be seen. He's a rookie. He's not fully established yet. And basically, that would be all pure speculation of what I think he could be. I think the sky's the limit for him. I would like to see a few more games of him as a professional before I get a comparison to him. But those two guys, those are two guys that Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry reminds me of, and both of those guys are Hall of Famers. And I think that, you know, if you had Chris Carter and Michael Irvin on the same team in the 90s, I think that could be a possible Super Bowl contender as well. But I would like to hear from you, your comments. So what do who do you feel? This is a live show, by the way. I don't want anybody to think I'm recording this. It is live, okay? But I'm just trying to get content. I'm trying to give people feedback. If you can think about a wide receiver, who does Michael Thomas remind you of? Who does Jarvis Landry remind you of? And if you want to throw in Chris Olave, if you feel like, you know, you've seen enough and you feel like you can have a comparison when it comes to him, feel free to put that down in the chat as well. Also, I ask that you hit the like button. I see we have 225 people watching this right now. Thank you. I know it's like 1 o'clock Central Time, so some of you probably are on your lunch break or you're probably at work. Should be working, but you're watching me. So thank you so much, and I appreciate that. Hit the like button if you have not already, and also subscribe if you have not already as well. We're going to go ahead and read some of the comments. I'm going to stroll up a little bit and we'll just take it from there. I've seen a donation here from Willie. Willie, thank you very much for the $10. Says talk your ish, TJ. Yeah, look, man, I don't feel like I'm talking ish, Willie. I just feel like I'm just putting out there what these people are saying, right? I got opportunity to catch a little bit of the reaction show of the Atlanta Falcons podcast that I was on. I have to say, I have respect for those gentlemen, but I was a little bit disappointed. I was a little bit disappointed watching that podcast, and the reason why is because it was a lot of emotion in that podcast. It wasn't so much about being informative. It was more of damage control, and I just think that, in my honest opinion, and I'm not knocking anybody, but I just feel like if you're going to do a podcast, look, your team is not going to win every week. And there's going to be times where you try to shoot your shot and you miss, right? And you can't take it personal. And I think there was a lot of things that were taken personal. I mean, there's been time here on the State of the Saints podcast where, the Saints will lose to Atlanta, they'll lose to Carolina, and we will have some of those fans in there. And honestly, as long as they're being respectful, I have no problem with them being there. If they want to talk, they know us. So I'm saying this to like the moderators right now. As long as they respectful about it, keep it rolling. All right, let them in. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. But I just think that if you're going to dish it, you got to be able to take it, and you can't grandstand, right? And you can't hot dog this thing. So I was a little bit disappointed in that regard. I just think that it was a lot of dismissing the Saints and what they did and what and what they tried to do, and it was all about damage control. And then you also had like some Saints fans that actually popped up over there, and they were threatening to block them because they was speaking their opinions. But we all know, they got that saying, there ain't no fun when the rabbit has the gun, right? But if you were the rabbit and you had the gun, you would stop at absolutely nothing to try to tell me or tell everybody else how your team is superior to ours. So you got to be able to learn how to take it if you're going to be able to dish it. That's all I'm saying. And that, in that regard, I was disappointed because you cannot get so wrapped up in your feelings that you phone it in, because there are people out there that are looking to you to tell them what went wrong with the team. And if you find yourself like, oh man, that dude ain't that good, that defense ain't that good, we had him, like, okay, we had him, fine, but now it's time to break it down. So I was disappointed in that regard, and also the threat of blocking people because you eating crow. I'm not a fan of that. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of that. And man, I just hope that you learn from that, because I want, as a podcaster, I want those guys to flourish regardless to if they're going to do if they're going to be on the opposite side of the team that I root for. I still want them to succeed, and I just feel like they're doing their fan base, their listeners, a disservice when you get that emotional to a point where you can't dish it. Like if I would have said something and you put it to music, so to speak, I mean, I said it. Like I would say, like, when I went on the show, I said that I thought the Saints would be able to stop Cordell Patterson because the Saints didn't allow a 100-yard rusher, right? But he ran all over the Saints. In that regard, I'm eating crow. I'm fine by that. Shouts out to my mom. She told me about a comment when I was talking about. I'll get to that a little bit later. But we're gonna go back to the comments. Who that, TJ? Great win. My BP is down, but I think Mike T is an angry Fitzgerald. Yeah, I can see that too. I can see Larry Fitzgerald, even though I feel like Larry Fitzgerald was a little bit faster than Michael Thomas. Maybe they probably run like the same speed, but in pads, it just looks like Larry Fitzgerald was like much faster than what Michael Thomas was. And so, yeah, but I mean, as far as the hands and being sure-handed, absolutely, man. I would definitely put him in the same category as Larry Fitzgerald when it comes to percentage of catching passes and levels of difficulty. I did see nervous in him, but then I saw he's just awkward like that, like a puppy, but knows what to do. Uh, well, look, I think that there was a level of nerves. You know, look, we're all human beings, and if you ever like broke your arm, or, sprain your finger, I've done that several times. I broke my wrist, I sprained my finger. Um, I've had, man, I was just an accident prone kid at times, but you find yourself like wondering if you can trust that again, right? Wonder if you can trust your finger, wondering if you can actually trust your wrist the way that you once did. Like if you ever had surgery on any of your extremities, if you haven't, saying hopefully, God continues to bless you that you don't have to have that opportunity or that luxury, quote unquote. But there's this process where you're going through some pain and you have to wonder, like, if I do this, will I be overexerting myself? Will I, be able to tolerate that threshold of pain? And maybe that was in the back of his mind. I know at times we look at these guys and they do their interviews and all of a sudden, we're like, oh, he said this. But sometimes, those guys are being politically correct. If you get behind the scenes and there's a lot of things that we don't see. We don't see these ice tub baths. You know what I'm saying? We don't see the chamber, the freeze chamber that they be in. We don't see that kind of stuff, the injection shots and all these other things that these dudes do in order to get on the field. Of course, they're going to tell you these things. It's almost like the comedy special, right? When Dave Chappelle, he was talking about his kids, right? He was like, you don't tell your kids, everything that's going on in your life. It was like, he said, he walked up to his kids with like, I'm going to tell you, I am very, very, very nervous about this month because I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the rent. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the bills. Now go on to school and be productive and be with your friends, right? I mean, how nervous would you be if you're at the age of 6 or 7 or 8 years old, your parents were having these type of conversations with you, right? There's things that my mom tried to protect us from, like when we were going through hardships and issues and stuff like that, right? Because as a child, you don't want your kids, you don't want them to experience that. And just like I think when it comes to fans, like we all know that there are a vast, I'm gonna say a vast minority. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna say a minority. A minority of us, we get a little nervous anytime like some bad news come out. We like Slink, on Toy Story 1, right? When Woody whispered in his ear, may have some bad news. Bad news, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden all the toys were like looking around like, what happened? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I can understand that. When it comes to Jameis Winston, maybe he was a little bit nervous, and he's not going to tell you everything because he wants everybody to feel like everything is under control. Like you don't tell anybody, if a plane was like, having some issues, you ain't about to just go out there. Oh my God, the plane is having issues. But calm down, folks. Like, come on, man. We all know. So I think that's like damage control. That's a little bit of damage control. But you have to be able to trust yourself. And I think he was a little bit nervous. I do agree with that. I think he was a little bit nervous going back out there, trusting his body. It's one thing, in preseason, but I mean, you don't know what this for real. This for real. Even though preseason, those guys are out there trying to do their best, but this for real. Like this the best of the best. This the best that the Atlanta Falcons could assemble. You know what I'm saying? They trying to knock your head off. So it's a little different. So I don't expect for him not to be nervous. So I think he kind of gets calmed down. And when, the fourth quarter, he start to trust, those guys to make plays. Shout out to Deuce McAllister helping the Jackson, Mississippi family with cases of bottled water. Yeah, I mean, Deuce always doing some great things out there in Jackson. I mean, he's always been involved in that community. I remember for a short period of time, he actually had a Nissan dealership out there. I think my brother EJ, he got his first car from Deuce McAllister dealership. I'll never forget that. And we had opportunity to meet him, once he actually, signed the paperwork for the car. I'm pretty sure when he watches this show later, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. What's up, TJ? I believe we're going to win this game Sunday, and we're going to shut Brady down again. He might get hurt. Wallace, I will talk about that as far as the predictions later on. It should be a very intriguing matchup. It should be. I do not put any stock in what happened last year. It's a completely different team. And these guys know what's going on. They know how long it's been as far as the regular season is concerned. They got a victory over the New Orleans Saints. So they're going to be up for this game. And to me, I really honestly feel that playing the New Orleans Saints was a little bit of motivation, more motivation than we probably would imagine for Tom Brady coming back to play in Tampa. Because out of all the teams that he's played, he's dominated those teams. But there's one team that has always been an Achilles heel to him, and that's been the New Orleans Saints. So, knocking off greats like Peyton Manning consistently, the very last game of Drew Brees' career came at a loss at your hands. But yet, in regular season, you haven't got an opportunity to knock off the Saints, and they've had your number and made you look mortal when other teams make you look immortal. So I think that is an incentive for him coming back and putting on the Tampa Bay uniform. So I think they're going to be up for this game, and I think they're going to be motivated to win this game. All the talent in the world can't save you if your coaches can't harness it. He finally trusts the game plan more than his skills. Yeah, I think that has something to do with it too. But also I think that under the tutelage of Drew Brees and also being in a system, like I don't think people are really paying attention to this. Jameis Winston is going into his third season as a member of the New Orleans Saints. His first season, he didn't start. He sat on a bench under Drew Brees, right? So he was in the film room. He was in a quarterback room 1 year. And then the second year, he was able to be a starter. And now, you got 3 years into an offensive system. It's not like, even though Sean Payton is gone, it's not like you're not running the same offense that Sean Payton was running. Pete Carmichael was running the same offense that Sean Payton left behind. So you're familiar with the concepts and what to do in certain situations. So even though, he missed the majority of last year because of the ACL injury, getting hurt, still, he still was able to be in the locker room. And I'm pretty sure like he wasn't away from the team. I'm pretty sure like even though he was hurt, I'm pretty sure he showed up to the facility and he still was like in a quarterback room, trying to help and do whatever he can, in order to try to assist. And he's still learning in the process. So right now, if you think about it, Jameis Winston has gotten 3 years of Saints offensive innovation. So I would expect for him to be able to, know where to go. I think the biggest issue is not so much the playbook. When it comes to the offense, I mean, you got to be a cohesive unit, right? You got to know what the other guy's thinking. It's almost like ball dancing or salsa dancing, right? You got to be on the same page, right? And if you're in synchronized fashion, right? If you're, you're dancing, it looks really good, right? But somebody just flailing their hands over here and you twisting over here doing, the Victor Cruz dance, like it's going to look funny. So I think what we saw on Sunday was a group of guys that have not played together a lot. It was trying to understand each other on the fly. Yeah, you can go out there and catch a couple passes, but when it comes to understanding what a guy is thinking, and I'm talking about when live bullets are around you, it's easy, right? You can have the guy hitting you with the pads and stuff like that, hitting you on the arm and all that kind of stuff, and have you delivering the ball and trying to put a hand in your face, and all that. But there's nothing like those live rounds. And sometimes it takes guys times to develop in order to do that. And then you can tell, like in a full quarter, it was more like Jameis was just out there trusting these guys to make plays. I mean, he was just putting it out there. And those guys were just coming down with the football. He was just, I'm going to just put it over here, go get it. I'm going to just put it up here, go catch it. So I think with time, you're going to start to see, a fine-tuned car, right? A fine-tuned engine, right? That's what we're going to see. But it takes some time in order for that to happen. Also with the offensive line, they have to be on the same page. They got to understand and work together in order for them to be able to protect Jameis Winston. So, I mean, it takes time. It takes time, folks. So I don't want anybody to just look at this team. And maybe you should. I don't know. I don't even want to say don't look at this team and just be concerned. I don't know what The crazy thing about it is, I don't know the level of concern I should be at, right? Because they went up against a guy who runs around in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? He runs out when he doesn't see his first read open, right? So you basically had a running back playing quarterback. But going up against Tom Brady, stationary target, right? You got Donovan Smith, their left tackle, who didn't practice today. I'm talking about the Bucs. You got him, who could possibly not play in the game, which I don't know. He might not. But you have a stationary target. And if the New Orleans Saints aren't getting pressure on Tom Brady, I'm not saying, look, not like getting them down on the ground. I'm talking about like hurries. I didn't see many hurries when it came to Marcus Mariota. If I'm not seeing that, then I'll start being a little bit concerned after 2 games, because you're going up against a guy that you know isn't going anywhere. You know that he's going to stand in that pocket as long as you possibly can. And the only reason, he's going to get rid of that ball is rather you see somebody open or you get in his face. If the Saints aren't getting pressure or hurries, then I'm going to be concerned after this game, because it don't get more stationary than Tom Brady. Hey, Pammy and Chemo and everybody. The landlord, thank you very much for being here. Let's see. All the talent in the world, already read that and strolled down a little bit. Jameis Winston turned the corner. Absolutely. The mentorship of Coach Payton and Breeze really enhanced his football awareness and decision-making process. Well, like I said, only time will tell. Only time will tell as we continue. But I was very, 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 very happy to see that Jameis Winston and some of the decisions that he made in his game, even though at the time I was wondering why he was holding on to the ball so long. I even tweeted that. I said, man, you got to get rid of the ball. I was just wondering to myself, why was this happening? But I just realized, like, there was a time, and I even said it. I'm gonna just be real. I was like, man, he might do something reckless. I even said it. I'm gonna be real, because I mean, I feel like I was, at that time, it's the only thing that I actually seen, and to see that I was actually proven wrong. And I was actually proven wrong that he actually allowed the game to come to him. I was happy to be wrong in that case. I think Winston is going in the right direction. His ability to make read defenses and identifying where pressure would be coming from is where he needs to continue to work on. Yeah, but that also comes from working alongside guys like Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz. Like they got to get it together. They got to be on the same page. I think what we're actually seeing in real time is the reason why Drew Brees was so great. I don't like, honestly, I think because of Drew Brees' greatness, I think that their offensive line was much better than they actually were. At the time, I just think that Drew Brees made them better, because Drew Brees, there was nothing new under the sun for him, right? He knew every defense. He knew what was coming. He knew who the Mike was. He knew who the Sam was. He knew who the Will was. He knew where the pressure was coming from. So he was able to let these guys know, like, block 52 or block 50, or, the rush is coming. Like he was able to put these guys in positions in order for him to be able to make plays. And I think sometimes we don't look at that. Like, we look at the quarterback as just a guy delivering the football, but we're not looking at the greatness when it comes to knowing where the pressure is, knowing how quick you need to get this ball out of your hands, knowing where you need to go with the ball. And you look at with Drew Brees, I know we always looked at his workout regimen and what he actually did, and when he used to be, rotating his shoulders, and, he rotated to the left, he'll throw the ball, then, look to the left, look to the right. He's actually, going in the direction of his second and his third reads, so you can never underestimate, and you can never have enough appreciation for a quarterback that is great. And I just think that Drew Brees made this offensive line much better than what it actually was. I think they were good, but I think with Drew Brees, he made them great, borderline elite. And I don't think that you just fall off the face of the earth and just start being slow all of a sudden. And, I don't think that. I just think that Drew Brees had a lot to do with what these dudes did, and how much help, he gave those guys at the line of scrimmage. Like Drew Brees was great. Drew Brees was like great at not just being a quarterback, but he was basically another offensive coordinator out there. You know, that's what he was. He was like offensive coordinator out there on the field. And that's what Tom Brady is. We that who that nation, who that TJ did the Saints sign L Train to practice squad. Yes, they did. They did that on yesterday. If you're watching this on a Wednesday, they did it on a Tuesday. Latavius Murray is back. I like the move. I have no problem with Latavius Murray. I don't think any Saints fans have any problem with Latavius Murray. While he was with the Saints, he was productive. When his number was called, he answered the bell. And I even think at the age of 32 years old, he'll have something to offer. If Alvin Kamara has to miss a game, or two to be able to contribute. So I'm glad that he's on the team. I'm glad that he gets an opportunity to continue his NFL career. And I'm looking forward to seeing, if he's going to be on the field, because I'm pretty sure there's a strong possibility that, you might see him sooner rather than later. TJ, what's your favorite Wayne mixtape? Chosen and I were discussing this yesterday at the end of the show. I got to think about that one. Man. Let's see. I don't know, man. I have to think about that one. It's probably the one, with the song when he was talking about, Carolina Blue Kicks, Carolina Blue. That's probably the one. I can't think of the name of that mixtape. I just like that line when he said, "No, I don't play like Joseph Forte, get Doja all day." that was my joint right there, man. I can't think of the mixtape it was on though, but he killed that though. How about this? Suppose Pat would be where Jameis is behind Drew learning. Talking about Patrick Mahomes. That would be great, but look, that's an alternative universe, right? That's woulda, shoulda, coulda type stuff. If we talking about Patrick Mahomes, so yeah, Patrick Mahomes probably would have. He already great, so I think he in a good situation too. And I'm gonna be real with you. I think Andy Reid is a better play caller than Sean Payton is. I don't think people would say that, but Andy Reid is a better play caller to me than Sean Payton is. I don't think they neck and neck. I think that when it comes to offensive innovation, Andy Reid is the standard. Andy Reid, regardless to if you want to talk about Philly not being able to, get over that hump, but they went to 5 NFC championship games, and then he went to like 4 with the Kansas City Chiefs. Come on, man. You got to give the credit where credit is due. He did it in the NFC and the AFC. So I know Sean Payton was Saints coach for many years, and I got so much respect for Sean Payton, and he is an offensive innovator. But Andy Reid, to me, as a play caller, is better. I feel like, both of them are like too pass happy for my liking. Andy Reid just will not run the football. He just like, man, forget it. The empty backfield, we gonna do this screen, like that's gonna be our extension of our run. But I do think I would give Andy Reid the notch over Sean Payton. I don't know about y'all, but that's just me. That's just me. That Squad 7 mixtape. Okay. But thank you for that. But yeah, that's the one right there. Wayne the GOAT. That's that Squad, TJ. Yeah. Yeah, that's the mixtape. That's the one I used to, that's probably my favorite one. All Lil Wayne and the Squad Up was the best mixtape. Big facts. Keith, you remember, huh? Yeah, I don't remember actual name. It's been a while. Wayne had so many mixtapes. It was like every week Wayne had a mixtape. I remember a time you couldn't turn on the radio without hearing a Wayne feature. Wayne was on everything. He was on Give Me That with Chris Brown. Then he'll turn around and be on something with Gucci Mane. And I'm like, God, dog. He was like the hardest working man in hip hop at one time. So when you look at like Cash Money and them being able to stay afloat to find talent like Drake and Nicki Minaj, like it was on the shoulders of Wayne. I loved him out of college from Wiggins, Mississippi. Headhunter with ball skills, super underrated. Just got hurt as a rookie. Who we talking about here? I'm sorry, I kind of missed who we're referring to. Scroll down a little bit. Let me know who you're talking about. I'm not sure. A year from now, I bet you that the Olave pick will be criticized like not getting Mahomes. That player will be Jordan Davis. Dude was definitely the best player available, and DA knew it and wanted him too. Well, if he wanted him, he should have got him. He should have got him. You know, it's just that simple. You know, it's just that simple. But I don't know, man. I think Chris Olave is gonna be pretty doggone good because you still have a few more years with Michael Thomas, and I just think that you have some time for him to come into his own to be what you want him to be. So I think that it's going to be one of those Lattimore Mahomes situations. Like even though Patrick Mahomes right now is probably the greatest thrower of the football in the NFL right now, he's definitely the face of the NFL when it comes to the quarterback position. You have to say that even though he's tearing it up in Kansas City, you're not mad that the Saints drafted Marshawn Lattimore, because just as good as Patrick Mahomes is at his position, Marshawn Lattimore is just as good as his position. Like you had two of the premier guys on the Atlanta Falcons team, Drake London and Kyle Pitts. They both combined for just one catch for 6 yards when Marshawn Lattimore was guarding them. And it's easy for us to forget where we came from when we're at the destination that we wanted to be. But there was a time when we know the Saints couldn't stop traffic with a stop sign. We knew the Saints couldn't stop a nosebleed. We know this, right? They couldn't stop a cab in New York City, right? It's easy for us to look at it now and be like, oh, they're throwing the ball down the field, and you know those guys are deflecting passes and coming up with interceptions, but not too long ago, right? In a not so distant past, right? There was a time where the cornerbacks and the safeties were slow, right? There was a term I used here earlier on the State of the Saints podcast, 2018, 2019, smoke like brisket, burnt like a biscuit. There was a reason why I used to use that, because those guys could not cover with a bed sheet. But now you have a level of comfortability, and I think sometimes we may take that stuff for granted, but I don't, right? I'm one of those guys that believe and love, you know, the past, because I feel like there's this old saying, you know, those that don't remember the past are doomed to repeat it. So I always remember the past. I remember the Alamo, okay? You know, I remember the Alamo and will forever remember the Alamo. And I have an appreciation for Marshawn Lattimore coming in 2017, becoming the defensive rookie of the year, and slowly becoming one of the best, if not the best, cornerback man when it comes to man-to-man coverage in the entire NFL. So I have an appreciation for him. So I don't think the Saints lost. Now, you know, when you watch Trevor Siemian play and only start puckering up during, you know, and perking up during the fourth quarter, and watching Ian Book's first pass as a pick six, you're probably wondering, like, dang, you know what I'm saying, what would happen in 2017? But as of right now, you know, I'm not mad, and I don't have any regrets when it comes to that decision. Like, both teams won. You know, both of those teams won. All right, Pee Wee Herman. Remember the Alabama. Peyton did want Mahomes and Reuben Foster. Well, 1 out of 2 ain't bad, right? Reuben Foster, that would have been a huge mistake. Hi, Jabby. Injury report should be out in 45 minutes. Man, sound like he talking about a souffle. Is Steezer East the new Jason David? No matter what he does, they just going to start him. Jason David to me is a little bit of a different situation. Like the Saints paid this man like he was that, you know, so like he was him, like he was him Hardaway, you know what I'm saying? Like he was him Tebow, you know, like he was Timothy Jones. That's my government name, by the way. But anyway, they paid him like that. They paid him like that, man. You know, like, so it's a little bit different, you know, versus a guy you draft and hope that he panned out. Like, y'all, they paid Jason David like he was, you know, he was that dude. So I think it's a little bit different. Like, you draft a guy, sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, you know, but when it came to Jason David, like, they paid a slot corner as an outside corner. Like, this dude played so good in the slot that y'all just thought that he was just so good to play on the outside. Like, the biggest mistake that you can ever make. I mean, if I'm going to pay you as an outside corner, I need to see you play as an outside corner. I think what is Kenny Allen, if I'm not mistaken, for the Colts. You know, he was like a slot corner. You know, they didn't want to pay him. They was like, hey man, you got to show me that you can play both. And that's when he ended up like getting paid. You know, but bruh, like, you got to show me $30 million a year for Winston. He ain't greedy. Man, look, you're gonna pay this man. Look, I'm being serious. Like, it's time. Like, if this dude took a pay cut to come to the Saints. Think about this. He took a pay cut to come to the Saints in order for him to learn under Drew Brees. He could have went to Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh wanted him, and they paid him. They were willing to pay him more for him to join the Steelers than the Saints. Then you go out here and you try to get into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes after this man gets hurt. You know, he had a 5-2 record. You still going out here trying to get Deshaun Watson, and the man just kind of sit there and like, man, it's just business. And then you sign him to a 2-year deal, almost like a prove-it deal. Nah, you pay this dude. If this dude pans out, you pay him. That just comes with it, right? You want all this production. You want this greatness. You want this dude to be able to do what he's doing out there at the quarterback position. If it pans out and he plays really well throughout a 17-game season, you pay him. Like, nah, bro. It's like if a person that you see, an independent lawn care service, for example, and a guy is like, like, what you gonna do how much you gonna charge to cut my grass? Well, normally I charge $50 for this, but just to show you what I can get, I'll do it for $20, right? Just to show you what I do. All right, cool. Guess what happens, man? The dude gets your yard in tippy top shape. He has it looking immaculate. Guess what? Next time, pay the man $50. You know what I'm saying? What's the problem? Right? We're always trying to look for a deal, and we always trying to lowball folk. I'm not saying you're doing this, Chris, but I don't want them, I don't want them to do that. I want these guys to get paid their worth. I know some people were getting mad and talking about CJ Gardner-Johnson at this point, that man wanting his money and talking about he's selfish and all that. Man, I don't feel like it's being selfish when you know your worth. When you're playing above what your contract entails. So it's time for you to come up with that Skrilla. They need to pay Jameis. If Jameis plays well enough to a point where it's just like, man, I can see us going all the way, a possibility of winning some Super Bowls with this dude. Why not pay him? Why, you know what I'm saying? Why continue to make this dude believe, like, give him the Three Stooges, I call it the Three Stooges treatment. The Three Stooges, they were one of the most popular, vaudeville acts, during the 20s and the 30s, right? And they signed with Columbia Pictures for $10,000. Now, they split that 3 ways. And for years, the producer of the production company, his name was Ted Healy. He would lie to these guys over and over again. Man, they about to shut down the studio. All the time, these guys are making 30, 40 different 18-minute shorts every single time. And there was a time where they weren't on TV anymore, and they were going on a road with the act. It was like in the 50s. And I can remember, because I'm a little bit of a historian, Mo was like, we were like behind the curtain. They ain't opened it up yet. And he said, I was just wondering to myself, did we have a sellout house? And he said, when he opened the curtain, he said it was standing room in that thing. And he said, and that's when I realized all these years they were lying to us. So let's not, let's not get this guy the Three Stooges treatment. Let's not give him the Three Stooges treatment. Let's not treat this guy like his services don't matter if he's out there balling out. Get that man his money. But y'all know me. I like to use examples, and for all my people that like the Three Stooges, that's just a little historical little fact for y'all if y'all may not have known that. Ramsey says, "What up, TJ? How you doing today, man? I'm doing well, and you're helping me through some stress right now, and I'm glad that I am, man. I'm glad that I can have I can have a hand in relieving your stress. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad I can do that. And whatever you're going through, I hope that you can get through it and know that you will get through it. Trouble don't always last. We all have those days where we go through anxiety and depression, and sometimes it seems like the world is kind of caving down on us. Whether it's something that's financial, relationship wise, maybe just life in general. But just know, when you have an opportunity to wake up in the morning, that's another opportunity to be great, right? Sometimes we got to live our life like Bill Murray on Groundhog Day, right? Sometimes, in some cases, it feels like the same day. But guess what? What you need to realize is, during that movie, when he realized some of the same things was going on over and over again, he made a change, right? So sometimes when we know where the situations are, when we know where the stress is coming from, it's time for us to kind of maneuver and make some moves and make some shakes in order for us to find that level of relief in life. And if we're just going through it right now and it doesn't seem like there's any possibility of a change, just know that if you constantly wake up in the morning, there's an opportunity to change that. So don't be so hard on yourself, and hopefully that advice can help you. So they were focused on Foster, and the 49ers moved up to take him. Yeah, he was actually on the phone, if I'm not mistaken, with the Saints, and he hung up in order for him to go with the 49ers. And quite honestly, I'm glad he did, because in the process, the Saints ended up getting Ryan Ramczyk. So I appreciate him hanging up the phone. CJ Gardner-Johnson got smoked this week at safety. Well, he still had a good game. I think he led the team in tackles, if I'm not mistaken. He still was out there. So look, I mean, I ain't never really heard of a shutdown safety. Honestly, I think he still did a pretty good job. But I can tell you who did have a good game: Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams had like 12 tackles, a pass deflection, an interception. He was out there balling for Baltimore. So he definitely gonna have to step it up even more now that Kyle Fuller is out for the season. I always watch like former Saints. I just do, man. You gotta have respect for those guys. Let's see. I agree. Pay Jameis how much money, my guy. Whatever whatever the market is. If he plays, like, think about this. Okay, if Jameis Winston plays so well that he's in the MVP conversation towards the end of the season, or the Saints have one of the best records in the NFC, don't y'all think that he deserves to get paid? I do. That just comes with the territory. A franchise quarterback is hard to find. A guy that's going to give you weeks of production constantly is hard to find. So in that regard, I just think that there's some positions you can't be cheap on. If you got yourself a franchise quarterback, you sign him. If you got yourself a franchise left tackle or right tackle, you sign him. Anybody on the offensive line, like if they out there balling, if they're good, right, borderline great, you sign them. Because that position is one of those positions. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. So if the guy is balling out, you pay him. Whatever the market entails, you just make it work. Man, he needs to have one good year first. How can you pay a quarterback before seeing him have a good season? That's biased because we like him objectively. No, we need a playoff berth. Oh, are you talking to me? Or are you talking to somebody else? Are you talking to me? Or are you talking to somebody else? Because I want to know, Luke. Are you talking to me? Or are you talking to somebody else? Because I know for a fact I don't know. I didn't say that. I'm assuming you're talking to somebody else, because you cannot possibly be talking to me. I said it. Like, I use the example, if a guy plays well, and he plays, to a point, I just even mentioned that. Like, you got to pay the guy. If he plays to a point where he's in the MVP conversation, leading you to the playoffs, you winning more games than you losing, he's putting you in the best position to succeed, you pay the guy. I said that, but I'm not saying you sit up there and let me hold that thought. Willie, thank you very much for $2. Says, I agree. Give Jameis his paper. Yeah, if he earns it, give him his money. You can't treat. I understand, like, some of us are cheap as hell. Look, it is what it is. Some of y'all just cheap. Y'all know that y'all want this car. Y'all know that y'all want this house. Y'all know y'all want that shirt. Y'all know y'all want that, right? But you don't want to act all excited. You don't be like, man, I want that so bad. I want that so bad. You play it off cool. You walk into the dealership with your hand in your pockets. I might buy something today. I might not. I don't know. I might do something. But in your mind, you're like, man, okay, man, I really want this. Right? Some of y'all just playing it off like this. You can't be El Cheapo. You know what I'm saying? You can't look. You can't want Ruby Tuesday prices. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no, you cannot want Root Chris Steakhouse, you know what I'm saying, type quality with Ruby Tuesday money. You know what I'm saying? It just ain't happening. It's just not happening. Look, Ruby Tuesday is Ruby Tuesday for a reason, and Root Chris is Root Chris for a reason, right? You know what I'm saying? Like Del Frisco's is Del Frisco's for a reason. Rio's is Rio's for a reason. Right. And then you have your Outbacks. No disrespect. My wife loves Outback, and I do too. You know, like you have like, you know, Logan Steakhouse and all those kind of places. They'll give you, you know, it feeds your belly. It feels good. You know what I'm saying? It tastes good, you know, especially with that potato. You know what I'm saying? And then you put the little sour cream and some cheese. Anyway, but still, there's levels to this. There's levels to this, folks. You know, so, you know, if the guy plays well, pay him, right? If he plays well, get him. Let's see. I was talking to the comment. I agree with you. Yeah, Luke. Yeah. Well, I said I know you. I said I know you weren't talking to me. That's why I was like, nah, because I know I ain't say that. But yes, look, you got to look at things objectively. Objectively, you have to look at things objectively, right? You like. We can't just look at every situation, you know, as well wishes. Like, I want this guy to succeed so badly. I want this guy to work so badly. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm going to support him in every way I can. Man, you're going to find yourself being on the outside looking in. You know, how many of us been in relationships way too long, you know what I'm saying, because we're expecting that person to change? Or we done been around, you know what I'm saying, been in a party way too long because we thought some people was going to show up. How many times we done that? Sometimes you got to cut your losses and be like, man, this ain't where it's at. I'm out to leave. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to cut your losses. You can want the party to be live. You can want the relationship to be on point. You can want, you know what I'm saying, like certain things to happen in your life, but it don't always happen that way. And sometimes you got to be real and cut your losses and be like, hey, man, I thought it was going to work out, but it didn't. You know, like, stop holding on to things too long. I'm not saying that Jameis isn't going to work out. I'm just using this as an example. Sometimes you got to look at things objectively. You look, we love the New Orleans Saints, but sometimes I think we fail to realize that the NFL is a business. It's like Latavius Murray. People are like, man, I can't believe Latavius came back. I can, because when the phone ain't ringing as often as it did because you're a 32-year-old running back, you know, that people look at, well, if you're in your 30s, how much do you have to offer, right? That's what they do. Not to say that Latavius ain't got nothing to offer, but at the same time, you might find yourself like, I might need to go back down here. It's about business, folks. It's business decisions. You know, all of these guys aggressively, you know, try to get the most money that they possibly can. Their agents work very hard to do that for them, right? But, you know, like, it's a business at the end of the day. If a team can't bring you back because they're like, we're going to go in a different direction, you asking for too much money, you can't take that thing personal. You can't take it personal. You know, like, it's a business. I mean, the reason why Latavius Murray was gone in the first place was because of business. The reason why Mark Ingram left and went to Baltimore was business. I mean, how much will we love Mark Ingram? Did Mark Ingram take it personal? No. Mark Ingram put that number 14 on, put the heart in, you know what I'm saying, in place, and did the who that chant, came back. Now it's like he ain't never left. He even got his old number back, number 22. So it feels like he hasn't even left. So in my own humble opinion, you cannot take things so personal. Some of us going to lose out on money. Some of us going to lose out on opportunities because we up here talking about principle. You know what I'm saying? Look, principal is that guy that used to stand outside the school and shake everybody's hand and wave as you enter and exit. Yeah, that's principle right there. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what a principle is to me. When you talk about money and all that kind of stuff and business forums, like, you can't take it personal. You can't. Like, if you're trying to run any type of successful business, sometimes you got to get a hard look at reality. Some of us have a false sense of reality of who we actually are at times and what we actually have to offer. And I think that sometimes that takes away from the opportunities that we have. It takes away from that because we like, man, I can't believe they did this to me. I'm doing this. I'm the head of this. I'm, like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, regardless to how special you may think you are, and we're all special in our own way, and we all have certain skills, right? Skills that make life bad for people. Like, I'm just playing. Anybody ever seen Taken? You know what I'm talking about. But we all have certain skills, right? That makes us differentiate from the other. But don't ever just get to a point where you're on some David Ruffin stuff like, y'all ain't gonna be nothing without me, because trust and believe. Like these people that become millionaires and billionaires, they get that way because they shrewd, right? And if you keep on getting in your feelings, like, man, I'm supposed to get more than that. Nah, bro. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, like, you got to look at it. You got to look at the market. You got to look at, and I found that out the hard way. I have a story for y'all another day that I'll discuss about that probably later. I'll probably do that on the other podcast. But sometimes, man, you got to have, and you got to be real with yourself. Facts, Latavius, a great, I think he good, man. I think he good. I don't think he's great. Speaking TJ, Pammy laughing. Same way with CJ Gardner-Johnson. I love our running back room. Speak. Ain't nobody come to see you. Right. Ain't nobody come to see. And sometimes, like, honestly, sometimes you got to say that to yourself, because sometimes you can get like, all puckered up and stuff like that. Sometimes you got to tell yourself, ain't nobody coming to see you like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of us got to feel, some of us got to have those Otis moments. Some of us, sometimes you got to have a David Ruffin personality, right? Cocky, full of yourself, think you the best. But sometimes it's okay to be Otis, right? You know what I'm saying? The Temptation's still around to this day because Otis Williams is the last, original Temptation. He's still holding it afloat, right? So he necessary. I can't believe we use the Temptation examples for life. But anyway, it's about business, and you got to leave your ego at the door. TJ says champagne dreams with a beer budget. You ain't lying. Exactly. You can't have Chris dreams with Ruby Tuesday money. Seriously. So sometimes you got to stay in your lane. TJ making me hungry. Hey, I was thinking about this. Like, my wife, occasionally, like when she gets off work, she says she stops at Outback, because Outback is not that far from where we stay. And she comes up in here with that steak sometimes. It's hit or miss. Sometimes. Sometimes that steak, she comes in there with medium well. It be hitting. Then sometimes, like, it tastes like a dog chew toy. But once again, you get what you pay for at times, right? And sometimes you gotta, know where you at. I agree. Pay him. He's been in our system for 3 years. What we forget is that Jameis found his footing after the Giants game, and then the Seahawks game. He was slinging it, but he didn't have playmakers. Look, I get what you're saying. I 100% agree that he was slinging that thing with the New York Giants, and he definitely was doing his thing in that Seattle game. But let's pump our brakes, okay? Here's the reality of the thing. He tore his ACL. He was out for the season. And then on top of that, you're adding on, like, even though he was doing some positive things, he had more wins than losses, people are still looking at it. And I'm telling you, billionaires are billionaires for a reason. I'm going to say that again. Billionaires are billionaires for a reason. They don't become billionaires because they just throwing money and they just slinging it out here like you at the local Magic City or something like that, or in Atlanta, or you know what I'm saying, you at King of Diamonds in Miami or something. Like, they hold on to it, and they're very skeptical, at times. So if they can use a ACL and not a full season of production or up and down play, they're going to do it, right? They may want you, but they're going to say, you did this, you did that, but we're still not sure. Here's where we stand. That's what they do. That's what they do. You don't become a billionaire. Like you don't become a billionaire because you know what I'm saying, slinging money to people that you wish well. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I want him to be great. I want him on this team. I think he has what it takes. Let me give him 200 million. Nah, bro. Teams giving out $200 million contracts gotta believe that you are the guy that will get them over the hump. If it came down to it in the postseason, they feel like you will be able to make the play to win the game if your number is called. So if you're not doing that, then trust and believe they're going to try to negotiate that thing till they can't negotiate no more. I just saw Godwin and Smith both missed practice for the Bucs today. Chris Godwin going to be out for a couple of weeks. He's dealing with a hamstring. And Devontae Smith, he had an injury, but it's according to Todd Bowles, it's like, will he be able to tolerate that? And I'm not just saying that's because I want the Saints to have the competitive advantage. If I was him, I would allow Donovan Smith to miss some games because you're going to need him down the stretch. You're going to need him down the stretch. And there are ways that you can actually, get away with that, especially if you have a backup left tackle and maybe get a tight end on that side to be able to chip a guy like a Davenport. I'm just being real. A chip a guy like Peyton Turner. You have ways that you can get away with that where you don't have to force Donovan Smith to go out there and Vontae Smith. There are ways that you can actually do some things without having to force Smith to go out there. Kamara was at practice. Adebo was not. Well, Adebo probably, dealing with that ankle sprain. Look, if he can't play, he can't play. If he, I'd rather have these guys down the stretch. It's just as simple as that. I don't want a guy to go back out there and then you find yourself like re-aggravating the injury. So allow him a couple weeks to heal up. If I'm not mistaken, it will be a month since he actually played some football because he didn't play in game number 2 and he didn't play in game number 3 and he didn't play in week 1. So that's about a month and some change that he hasn't played. So I'm down with that. So let that man heal up. Let him heal up. This week's game will be won in the trenches. I don't know, Tyrell. I mean, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. But to me, I just think that I'm interested to see how Tampa is going to approach the fact that they have the Saints have a quarterback that can throw over the head. I think that even though the Saints were beating Tampa when Drew Brees was there, they didn't respect Drew Brees' arm strength or ability. They was willing to, in some cases, allow the receivers to get into those soft spots and they just get the tackle and kind of buckle down defensively for field goals and stuff like that because they knew, Drew Brees was going to be able to dissect them. And if, Drew Brees going to be Drew Brees, he going to do Drew Brees things. But if we can force him to a field goal, that'll be cool too. But I can understand what you're saying. Yeah. The offensive line definitely got to play better. Guys like Shaq Barrett and Akeem Hicks and, Vita Vea and, all these guys like that, those guys can get pressure on a quarterback. So they're going to have a better outing than they did last week. The last week, you have another week of that, you're going to get Jameis killed, and then you're going to find yourself looking for Andy Dalton. You know what I'm saying? Hoping that Andy Dalton pan out. And I'm knocking on wood when I say this, but that's just real, folks. If your offensive line can't protect your quarterback, it's just a matter of time before he gets hurt. Taking things too seriously can sometimes cause unnecessary stress and worrying over things that you can't change. Well, that's just human nature. I mean, look, you're going to worry. It's just what it is, for all my people out there that follow the Bible, the Bible talks about, people worrying and you shouldn't worry, right? They talk about how the birds in the air, and the birds, like they don't know, they don't have a home, right? But, they still singing outside your window, right? It don't know where, the next meal coming from. But sometimes we got to live our life like that bird, but sometimes it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to live your life like that bird, right? That not concerned about where it's gonna lay his head. I mean, that's just human nature. But the biggest thing about it is to not let it consume you to a point where you just shut down. A lot of people they give up and they quit, and sometimes they make some bad decisions, and they decide to just let it all go because they feel like they don't have anything to live for. But if you look around, you'll find more things that you can actually live for. You can find those things. You can find those things in some of the smallest spaces. Some of us feel like we got to look for a breakthrough. Some of us looking up at the sky. We're looking up at the sky and looking for that airplane, with the little paper on there that's telling us what we need to do with our life. Meanwhile, a butterfly may have rolled on your shoulder or something like that to give you some level of comfort. Some of us be looking for this big breakthrough right away. But sometimes, that butterfly on our shoulder can represent, saying the breakthrough is slowly coming. So just remember that, folks. Winston was missing Packers training camp, no real reps with Mike T or McCoy. Remember, he had Ruiz as a center because McCoy was injured week 1 versus the Packers last season. Something to keep an eye in mind about chemistry. Yeah, no cap, no filter. You're absolutely right. I just think that we just expect those guys to just roll out of bed and just be able to, block for Jameis and catch passes from Jameis. Man, look, football isn't as easy as it may look. Some of us feel like, let me get past this guy right here and now throw me the ball. Like, nah, man, it's look, for some of you that actually play, the quarterback throwing you the ball before you even turn around and catch it, right? So if you tell you run 10 yards and then cut right towards the water coolers, right? By the time, you cutting going towards the water cooler, you turn around, the ball right there in your chest. It's not as, it's about timing. It's about chemistry. It's about understanding the guy that you're throwing the ball to. It's about understanding the guy that's throwing the ball to you. It's about blocking for the guy. It's about understanding their concepts. Are they going to stay in the pocket? Which way are they going to slide when they're in the pocket? Are they going to go more to the left than the right, or more than right to the left? Like like what blocking I need to do, what side I need to block, who I need to block. You got to learn how to do all those things in synchronized fashion, right? Like I said, it's like a dance. It's like line dancing, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like doing a Cupid shuffle, in Champion Square, after the Saints win, right? Everybody to the right, to the right, to the left. You know what I'm saying? You got some people going, some people on their Cesar Ruiz be going to the left when they should be going. But seriously, for the most part, everybody going to the right, they going to the left. They kicking. Now they walking by themselves, right? Everybody doing this, right? It is funny though. Y'all ever done a Cupid shuffle and then everybody let me show you how it goes to the right. Did somebody snap? You know what I'm saying? Because they end up going to the left to the right. I know everybody been to at least one birthday party or one celebration that you done seen somebody bust out the Cupid shuffle and somebody going the wrong way. Or they timing just all wrong. Like it's just off. You know what I'm saying? It's like Traquan Smith with it, right? Traquan Smith that Traquan Smith dancing, not on the same page. But yeah, you got to be on the same page. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little nervous if Evans and Julio are out there without us having a strong second cornerback. I agree with that. If Adebo's out, Lattimore can only be on one. Yep, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I ain't gonna lie to you. That was a game. I want to say it was the last time the Saints played Atlanta when Julio was in a Falcons uniform. And it was he was cooking. I think it was a 4th and 14 or something like that. The Saints ended up winning this game, by the way. But it was 4th and 14. He converted that. And then he ended up going to the sidelines because he had a hamstring injury. I was like, whoo, if this boy stay on his drive. So if people feel like, man, this dude washed to a point where, man, this dude got Tom Brady throwing him the football, and Tom Brady going to throw the ball where it needs to be. Man, he, as far as timing and throwing the ball, time on task, He better than Matt Ryan in that regard. So to think that Julio, that like some old Julio don't exist, even though this dude like 30 plus, now you sadly mistaken. Like this dude caught like a deep pass last week versus the Cowboys, even though to me Trevon Diggs is one of the most overrated cornerbacks in the league. Great hands, by the way. Like if he played wide receiver, I'd be nervous. But the dude is not very good in coverage. But Julio, that he still got some moments in him. He still got some moments in him. They was building chemistry in game first 3 quarters, then finally clicked. I think that had a lot to do with the fact of the no huddle, right? It's hard for teams to sub out personnel when you're doing no huddle, and you're also getting looks that you need. You're exploiting like some of the defensive deficiencies, I should say. Like if you have a cornerback out there that's probably playing on this guy because in a slot, all of a sudden like now you on Chris Olave who's about to shoot down the field on you. Oh snap! Like let's get this. I don't want to call him a bum, but let's get this guy up out of here. Like he not ready for this. That ain't his lane. So the no huddle can sometimes like sneak up on teams and you're able to get those advantages. I guess the part we're talking about the Cuban shuffle, right? They said you are exactly right. I'm in a line dance group, and if you look at someone dancing wrong, it messes everything up. Yeah, sometimes you gotta, you gotta be on the same page for a dance to look good. All my frat people out there, all my sorority, fraternity people out there, you do the step show, right? You know what I'm saying? Some dude over here with the, and one dude all up here with it, like, hey, wait a minute, man, we supposed to be stomping, right? We supposed to be on a boom, boom, boom. You on a clap, clap, clap. You know what I'm saying? What's going on here? We losing points right now for the step show. Oh man, we all got that one frat brother that can't step, but we be trying to work with him. Oh man, we all got that one, right? We all got that one that timing that just be off, and like everybody else up here with it, and they like they all late with it. Like, okay, bro, we gonna sit down. We gonna have you as the MC, okay? We gonna get a microphone and you just bring us out. We gonna have something cool for you, then you just step back and watch us work. I think Drew training Jameis. You seen Drew and Jameis mechanic full quarter, just more arm strength. Yeah, I mean that back shoulder fade was a thing of beauty. Both of those touchdowns was a thing of beauty. Should we be concerned with how we looked in the first 3 quarters? Yeah, of course we need to be concerned. Like they said, those that don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. So yes, you should be concerned, but it shouldn't be to a point where we should be sitting up here like the sky is falling, like on some Chicken Little stuff. We shouldn't be like that. We should look at the tape, like they often say. We're gonna watch the tape. Like literally, who watching tape? Like nobody watching tape. Like we all know that it's digitized. So why do they say watching the tape? Why we gonna say we gonna watch the stream? Like I don't know. I think I'm meticulous like that, but yeah, you got to be concerned, but you got to be able to learn from your mistakes. By watching film. I'm gonna say film. I ain't saying watching no tape. Who has tape? Like honestly, in 2022, who has tape? When you think about tape, what you think about? Think about VHS, right? Who have a VHS in 2022? I'm pretty sure somebody got that big box TV, that had the VCR TV combination, what I'm saying, in 2022, what I'm saying? But it's cool, what I'm saying? I actually like that, It used to be fun, right? When you were in school and the teacher bring that out, what I'm saying? They wheel out the big box TV with the VCR on there, you're about to have a free day. It normally happens on a rainy day, right? It's, man, we about to watch Lean on Me. But seriously, man, very few people have that in 2022. Great thing to have, but why are they saying watching tape in 2022? Come on, man. Tape, that's for me. Man, who watching tape? Now, man, I'm gonna go watch that tape of the Avengers Endgame. Who watching tape? Like who going, like they still exist, but who rolling up to Walmart and buying DVDs, right? Who going VHS tapes? Yo, TJ, did you see Mike's eyes in that 4th quarter? There was so much emotion he needed to release that I think he really loves DA. Oh yeah, that was obvious. And it was almost to a point. I'm gonna be honest with you, Tim. It was so obvious. I was wondering, did Michael Thomas like Sean Payton? Did they get along? Because the way I ain't never heard him. As many games as Mike T went off, as many moments that he had, I ain't never really seen him speak about Sean Payton in that regard. So I don't know what type of relationship they had. Brandon says, I collect VHS tapes. Well, you said the key word, collect, right? When you say collect, that means that it's an endangered species, right? So you got people out here, I collect, Pokemon cards. I collect old Star Wars figure, action figures, right? When you say collect, that means that it's not around as much as it used to be. You still got people who have that, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to knock nobody. I actually wish I had one, to be honest with you, just for nostalgic reasons. Yes, that VHS TV at school means it was nap time. I'm talking about when I was older. I like 7th grade. Shouts out to my social studies teacher, Miss Brown. Miss Brown at Colton Middle School, she used to roll out that TV, and we used to always watch Lean On Me. That's the reason why I know Lean On Me by heart right now. That's the reason why, because Miss Brown. I don't know. I couldn't tell you when the Battle of Gettysburg took place, but I darn sure can tell you when when Joe Clark almost tried to get Sims to jump off top of the roof. You smoke crack, don't you? Don't you hear me, boy? Don't you smoke crack? You know what that does to you? It kills your brain cells, son. It kills your brain cells. And then go kill yourself. Do it expeditiously. Oh, man. TJ, while they're not exactly the same style, Mike T aggression reminds me of Megatron in the way they just play straight up bully ball. I ain't going to lie to you. Nah. I understand the talent of both of these guys, but man, when Michael Thomas can have 2 cornerbacks on him at one time, then we can have this conversation. Megatron was a whole nother beast. This man was 6'5", 230 pounds, running a 4.2. I mean, when he had 3 people on him, he was open. I don't know, man. Megatron was that dude. Like, that man went off for 300. Okay, that man went off for 300 yards. Like, nah, bro. I'm sorry. Like, that Mike T is great, in my opinion, but Megatron, man, that's Thanos. That's Thanos as a wide receiver. That's Thanos as a wide receiver, for real, man. That's a guy with all 6 Infinity Stones. Some of y'all probably lost if you've never seen Avengers, but that is all 6 Infinity Stones right there. That dude had to speak. Like, Megatron was a real life created player when you turn them all up to 99. He got the jumping ability. He had the agility. He had the route running. Like, this dude was virtually unstoppable. Like, seriously, let's do it. I seen this dude catching passes consistently in triple coverage. Like, nah, I can't. Like, Hart, they both great, but Megatron, I'm telling you, he was on another level, man. Oh, boy. Call 10. This is Joe Clark. The enemy is here. Get those chains off the doors. It's the part of the show where we wrap it up, so we just, we just do rapid fire. I think this was it was the effort they took to come to see Mike at his home. That really meant a lot to him, and we don't know of anyone who did that. I agree. He did. He flew out there to California to spend time with him and talk about how important he was to him. Mike T reminds me of Herman Moore or Michael Irvin. Okay. I mean, I can see some Michael Irvin. I can see some Herman Moore too. I'm trying to see another guy. It's a couple guys I can think of, that he remind me. I can see Reggie Wayne a little bit. I can see a little bit of Reggie Wayne in him. Even though Reggie Wayne was a little bit faster. Bad, you sound just like that dude. What about Eric Martin and Michael Thomas? No, just the same team. Just the same team. Just the same. I don't see the comparison. They both were great. They both were great. You know, my Eric Martin. I don't want to say he was great. Eric Martin was good. He was above average. And you know, as a Saint, I mean, they weren't very good when he was playing. So this dude was like a big fish in a little pond. So yeah, he's always going to be remembered as a Saints great because not too many guys came before him that can catch the ball like him. So he was able to play, you know, during an era where he was establishing, the standard for the wide receiver. Only thing Megatron couldn't defeat was the Lions curse. Yeah. And they didn't want to let that man go. Tim, thank you very much for the $5. They should have let him go. Let that man move on. They did the same thing to Barry Sanders, but I find it very convenient that y'all decided to, let go Matthew Stafford so willingly. But you're going to keep this guy around. It's the same thing they tried to do with Carson Palmer, right? They tried to keep him in Cincinnati and they want to release him. Nah, it's almost like what Al Davis tried to do to Marcus Allen, tried to keep this man on the bench forever and ever. Amen. Man, let these people go. That's the reason why he decided to retire. This man got tired of this. Brandon Marshall, maybe. Luke, I don't see that. I don't see that either. Look. Here's the reason why I don't see that, Luke. It's not the fact that I don't see. I see exactly. Look, I know exactly what you're talking about. The physicality that he played with. But here's the way they separate. Brandon Marshall became a running back when he got that ball in his hands. His ability to be able to maneuver and be elusive and use that stiff arm, he became a running back. I don't really see that type. Mike gets yards after the catch, but Brandon Marshall created his lanes. He was able to he turned into a running back. So from a physicality standpoint, I can understand where you're coming from. Yards after the catch, no. I'm talking about like all around. When I think about comparisons, I'm talking about it's almost like watching that guy in 95. It's almost like or that guy in 95 watching him in 2022. That's when I think about when it comes to comparisons. That's what I think about. I got you. Like when it comes to physicality, yes. Like Luke, if we're actually building a wide receiver, right? And you're like, okay, if we're building Michael Thomas, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm building Michael Thomas, what I'm doing. Yeah, I would say Brandon Marshall's physicality. I would add that. So I get what you're saying. But the yards after the catch, I think that's where it differs. But that's a good point. I'm not mad at you for that when I can see it. Hey, you talking play style more than just measurables. Got you. Yeah. I'm talking I'm not talking measure because if you're doing that, like, okay, it's like you ever seen like one of those clips, right? Build a perfect quarterback, build a perfect wide receiver. Well, we're not building a perfect quarterback or wide receiver, but we're trying to build the receiver that we have right now. Like that's what I'm looking at. When I'm comparing, I'm talking about like if one of the guys' soul got sucked up and the other guy's soul came in, it's like they wouldn't miss a beat. Like you would like still will look the exact same way, play the exact same way. You see that. That's what I'm talking about. But not so much like you say, measurables, not so much. TJ, please go see the interview of Carlton Davis just now. Okay, I'll go check that out. I'll check it out. Brandon Marshall, top 5 route running next to Chad Ochocinco. Both of them was pretty good. Both of those guys were pretty good. Chad Johnson, Ochocinco, was very underrated as a route runner. I think a lot of people kind of just forgot how good he was because of that stinker he had in New England, especially like he went to the Super Bowl, didn't have a catch. But man, when he was out there and he had Carson Palmer, that boy was cooking, man. That boy was cooking. He was cooking with oil. He was cooking with canola oil. He was cooking with Pam. He was doing it. Mike T got hands like Anquan and route running like Reggie Wayne and Fitzgerald. That's a good one. I would agree. Look, y'all, anybody know, man, sure, I love me some Anquan Bolt. I'll never forget. Like, I don't think a couple years ago, I don't think Baltimore win that Super Bowl without. The way he was moving the chains on third down, I mean, he was Mr. Third Down that day. Gotta love how Keyshawn Johnson has his nephew back. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure he knows more information about him than even the media does. So, I mean, he talks to him virtually, I think, almost at least a couple times a week. I say Hines Ward mixed with Jimmy Smith. I think Hines Ward was more physical than Michael Thomas, to be honest with you. But you could also make an argument that maybe it's because Hines Ward was playing in an era where, you can actually, it-hole tackle a guy and don't get, don't get fined or don't get suspended for it. But I think Hines Ward a little bit more physical. Jimmy Smith, I don't think he reached that level where he should have been. I don't think he reached that level because of all of the demons that he was dealing with. What about Steve Smith? No, I don't see that. I don't see that. Steve Smith was Antonio Brown with a temper. That's what he was. That's who he was. Like, I think some people forget Steve Smith started his career in Carolina as a kick returner. But to me, Steve Smith was Antonio Brown with a temper. So I don't see that one. Mike T has Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt mixture. You want me to be real? You know what reminds me of Isaac Bruce? Jamar Chase does. Jamar Chase reminds me of Isaac Bruce. Like when he first got to the Rams, right? Torrey Holt reminds me, and I think people don't really get this dude that much credit because Isaac Bruce was the seasoned veteran, but Torrey Holt reminds me of Odell Beckham Jr. Like as far as his route running ability, his speed, his catch radius. Like, dude was a beast. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I think he gets overshadowed by Marshall Faulk being there. You had Ricky Prohl as a tight end, and Isaac Bruce was the go-to guy. But he wasn't a slouch. It's almost like when Marvin Harrison was in Indianapolis, right? He was the guy, and Reggie was the number 2 guy. And then when Harrison retired, then Reggie Wayne started to be that guy. Torrey Holt got an opportunity to show that he can be a primary number 1 receiver once Isaac Bruce hung it up. But he reminds me of Odell Beckham Jr., his talent level, his ability to catch the ball, get that separation, really good route running ability, able to catch some of those tight contested集. He definitely reminds me. OBJ reminds me of Torrey Holt. We're doing a lot of comparisons here. And ATL and many few years back attacked Pete and Warford, even with Drew calling protection. Same with Pete and Ruiz. Teams game planning for them. We got to improve at guard, pass protection, make a run. Well, I'm not going to beat up on Pete too much because Andrews Pete was responsible for that big run by Taysom Hill. I don't like that big boy was moving. How he moved from the left to the right like that fast. Soon as James, I was like, wow. So I'm gonna give him some credit, man, because here's the thing: we always gonna beat up on guys when they make mistakes, and we don't give the offensive line guys credit until they messing up and screwing up and all that kind of stuff and making us mad and throwing stuff at our TV. So I'm gonna say that I've seen some good things from Pete. Ruiz. How about Juwan Johnson breaking out though? He was blocking hard, finally got bigger, dude made strides. I told y'all, man, he remind me, we doing all these reminders, but he looked like Jared Cook out there. Jared Cook that didn't fumble. Man, Jared Cook was good for the Saints. He did it. He did some good things for the Saints, in my opinion. That's what he looked like out there. And also it's an advantage because he started his career as a wide receiver, so he can catch. TJ AK practiced today and reports say Murray looked great. I mean, I would expect him to. It's not like, he didn't play last year. And if you follow Latavius Murray, like I don't stop following these guys because they ain't with the Saints no more. I mean, the guy stays in really good shape. He's well-rounded. He's a good family man. I got a lot of respect for Latavius Murray. He's a guy that just does his job. He ain't trying to be the look at me guy. He the guy like you can count on me. So I'd rather have one of those guys on the team. Jimmy Graham. Nah, he tougher than Jimmy Graham. I mean, did you see that block that he put out there for and help Taysom Hill get that run too? So I don't see Jimmy Graham doing nothing like that. I see Jimmy Graham, whiffing on that tackle or something. I mean, I'm just not like Jimmy Graham as a pass catcher. Yes, Jimmy Graham as a tight end. We haven't done this in a while.
Hell no, to the no, hell to the no.
But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. And if you did enjoy the show, I ask that you hit the like button. Hit that like button. Let everybody know that you enjoyed the State of the Saints podcast and all this content. Tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell that old dude and that caddy that the State of the Saints podcast is the most interactive Saints podcast that you're going to find. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Previous episodes available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Thank you so much. Take care. Oh, yeah, I got to mention we're part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. And I think that's about it. Till next time. All I got to say is, who that? Tried to sound like Joe Clark right there. You smoke crack, don't you?